Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Perspective. This is MJ speaking, and I am so excited to have you guys back for another episode on a topic that I am very excited to get into today. Thanks for joining us again. I hope that you are having an awesome day, afternoon, evening, whatever time in your day you are tuning in during. I hope that it's going well and that you are achieving the goals that you set for yourself at the start of it, and that you are feeling good and motivated and ready to go still, and that you're doing good. I know we are still living in very unprecedented times, and it looks like the end is near, but yet so far. But I just want to take a moment to say that, keep going. We're all in this together. The end is in sight. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to get through this. Um, Patience is the silent killer. It truly is, but it is arguably one of the biggest tests that we are given in life. And when we learn how to embrace it and embrace uncertainty along with it, life just becomes that much more savory. So, today's topic is something that I'm very excited to get into because it's a very it's a very personal topic that is near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I get asked a lot being a content creator, a photographer, a business owner is how do you stay inspired? How do you get inspired to create your content? What inspires your content? How do you not self compare? How do you stay consistent with your content, and how do you keep bettering your content? So, I'm excited to delve into this topic and kind of talk about some positive and negative experiences that have taught me a lot about myself and the mission that I am contributed to doing on social media and the kinds of message that I want to say through my work, both through photography and through my wellness Instagram. So I'm excited to dive into this topic today, and I'm excited to have you along with me. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First of all, I just want to start by saying that I am super ashamed and embarrassed because I know that I said in the first episode that each and every episode, I would start off by giving a territorial acknowledgement out of respect for the Indigenous people of the current land where I'm residing. And last episode, I completely forgot to. So, my biggest apologies. So, I want to start this episode with an acknowledgement, a respectful acknowledgement at that I am currently residing in Victoria, BC, Canada, and therefore I am on the land of the Lekwungen speaking people, and more specifically the Esquimalt, Songhees, and WSÁNEĆ nations, whose relationships with the land stand to this day. And this is unceded territory, and I am an uninvited settler. And being that I am an uninvited visitor and settler, I want to express my immense gratitude for the original settlers of this land for allowing me to be here and reside here and to just get to relish in the beauty that is Victoria and WSÁNEĆ and Vancouver Island in general, and for allowing me to be here. It's incredible. It is such a blessing to be here, and I am so grateful, and I look forward to continuing to work towards reconciling and strengthening the relationships with the original Indigenous settlers of this land. So, thank you again. All my gratitude goes out to you. So, I want to start this episode by talking about the beginning of my journey in both the photography and wellness realms, and the kinds of things that I experienced through starting both of these social media channels in terms of the trends I noticed, the kind of negative feelings that were brought up at the beginning, the logistic aspect of being a creator. And I have a mind map sitting here beside me where I've kind of outlined the similarities and trends that I noticed between both of them and the things I struggled that were very similar between the two experiences. But I will also stem off and talk about both of them separately at times. So if you're a photographer, great, you get a little bit more of a direct explanation, as same if you are a wellness influencer, but these tips are meant to be specifically for any and all content creators. And I think that these are things that a lot of content creators will resonate with or can expect to resonate with if you have started or are starting a social media profile online that you want to make professional and that you want to use to reach people. So these are some things that I experienced when I began that shaped the beginning of my journey, but also got me to where you are now. And I want to emphasize that no experience is a bad experience. I think that any experience you can structure to be something that was of severe value to you in what it taught you, and regardless of any hardships that it may have brought you and any times of frustration and sadness that it may have brought you, anything and everything is a lesson. And when we accept that and when we see the frustrations that we go through in life as opportunities to grow and to be innovative, business and content creation and life in general just becomes that much more fun. So, my first piece of advice, getting right off the bat, is to embrace the journey for everything it is in anything you do, because being a business owner online and marketing yourself online as a content creator is tough, especially on platforms like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, because there are millions and billions of accounts already out there, and working to make yourself stand out amongst all of them is tough, but it's not impossible. And I want to take this episode to highlight that and to hopefully inspire you to see that and to be yourself in order to show your most truest self through your content. So, I started my photography Instagram in 2017. I won't go back to the journey of me becoming a photographer, but when I started this Instagram and when I started my journey as a photographer in general, the only thing I really knew was that I really enjoyed portraiture. And that was the field of photography that I wanted to dedicate my time to. And eventually, I took a bunch of my friends out for portrait photo shoots, and I got content and built a portfolio, but I still didn't have a defined client base and I didn't have a defined style. I was just kind of, you know, I would just kind of wing it and I would just kind of shoot out of subconsciously trying to copy the work of other artists that I would see out in the community that inspired me. So when I actually started and funded my business, Mariana Jimenez Photography, it was very hard at me at first to even find clients and to market myself because I didn't even really know what I wanted to do and who I wanted to target and what I wanted to use my work for. So the beginning was very tough in that sense because you know, I think most 18-year-olds, I mean, actually, I speak for myself when I say that as an 18-year-old, I had very little knowledge about business and business strategy and business marketing. So I went into it very blind and kind of winged it and quickly just expected that my portfolio was going to do the work for me and attract clients. But if you are a content creator and or a photographer, you already know that that is absolutely not the case, and you have to put in immense amounts of hard work and time in order to market yourself and to showcase yourself as an investable, is that even a word, investable? As someone worthy of investing in, let's put it like that. So very quickly in my photography journey, I fell down the train of self-comparison because, I had made this website and I was putting ads, but still nobody, like my inbox was empty, right? My phone wasn't getting calls, I wasn't getting clients. And so you start to look at the work of other photographers around you who are being successful and you start asking yourself, oh my gosh, should I be using the kinds of presets and filters they use? Should I be pricing my photography the way that they do? Should I be targeting their clientele base? Like all these things start to go through your head and you quickly fall down the train of self-sabotage and self-comparison. Now, when I started my wellness Instagram, and this was far more recent, I started my wellness Instagram about 1 month ago, I want to say, about 4 to 6 weeks ago. It was a lot easier for me to begin that Instagram because I already have a very clear idea of the kind of content that I want to deliver to my followers and the kinds of things that I want to say. Because since my experience as a photographer, I've gained a way better idea of who I am and what I stand for and what my values are and how I want to use the knowledge that I have gained from life experience to help other people and to create content that hopefully inspires people. So, making the wellness Instagram, I already had kind of a strategized plan as to how I was going to go into it and the kinds of things that I was going to post. However, if you are currently in the wellness industry, you know that there is a lot of uniformity in the wellness industry around the kind of content that a lot of wellness influencers post. This includes things like journal prompts, your daily matcha lattes, your daily workouts, uh, your morning coffee, recipes, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because wellness looks different on everybody, and everybody has content they are passionate about and things that they want to post and things that they want to showcase to inspire people to practice wellness. However, if you know me, you know that I absolutely adore coffee, but absolutely hate matcha. Like, I cannot stomach matcha, and I just think it tastes like grass. I'm so sorry if you are a matcha drinker, and I'm probably just not making it properly, but I don't like matcha, and I don't drink matcha, and I also don't drink chlorophyll water. And I do journal, but when I journal, it's typically me free writing to try to get my thoughts out. I don't use prompts as often. That's just my personal preference. But that being said, because there is this uniformity in the wellness industry that so many people showcase, and again, I want to emphasize that there's nothing wrong with that, it makes you feel very inferior off the bat because then you think that wellness is defined as journals, matcha lattes, chlorophyll water, working out. And that is not at all the case. And this is a whole other. But what I'm trying to say is that, again, there was a period where literally everything I did in my day, I felt the need to capture for Instagram. So I would intentionally like make super foamy, fancy lattes to take pictures of, when in reality, that's only like a weekend thing for me because most of the time I just, heat up my milk, froth it for a couple seconds, pour in the coffee, and then I have to sit down at my desk and do school or work, right? And I would like clean the edges of my plate to take like a picture of the food I was eating. And I just, like, every time I journaled, I started using journal prompts more often and felt the need to capture that until one day I picked up my phone because I was about to go take a picture of the journal prompt that I was currently about to write about. And I was like, wait a second, you've been here before. Why are you falling down this train again? This isn't who you are. This isn't what you want to showcase. Journaling is amazing, and I absolutely encourage it to anyone and everyone who is trying to build a better relationship with themselves and de stress and unload their thoughts in order to kind of get to the root of whatever that they're going through. However, and it didn't feel like me, and it didn't feel like the message that I was deep down really, really wanting to get out to the public, which is that wellness looks different on everybody. Wellness isn't this uniform look that we see in the media so often. It is anything and everything that brings you, which is the key word there, brings you fulfillment and makes you better and makes you driven to keep living life to the fullest. Because if you are drinking matcha lattes and stomaching it down because you hate it, but you think it's going to make you better and more fulfilled, like, that isn't wellness. That's just you trying to fit an ideal that is telling you that that is wellness when in reality it's making you miserable because you hate the taste. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? And if you've ever fallen down that train of feeling the need to curate anything and everything that you do in your day for the sake of Instagram, for the sake of the viewings, for the sake of the likes, in order to fit the common ideal that we see in the media, it's okay. And don't hate yourself because we are wired to look around at everybody around us to make sure that we are not outsiders in the pack, right? Like, at one point, we were animals running through the forest, and we had to look around us to make sure that we were still in line with everybody else and that we weren't doing anything wrong that could potentially get us kicked out of the clan. But I want you to know that it is wired in us to seek validation, but it is when we use that need for validation to dictate the work that we do and to build our motive is when we lose ourselves in the work that we are creating and we lose the authenticity behind our work. And it is when we stop producing genuine content that reflects our mission. So, next, I want to talk about how you can get yourself out of that loop of self comparison and anxiety over the kind of posts that you're making and the audience and the amount of likes and stuff. It is a very vicious cycle to break. I will admit it is so tough to feel like not an outsider because your content may not look exactly like everybody else's, but I promise you, when your content doesn't look like everybody else's, that is your first hint that you are doing it right and that you are producing content from your most authentic self. The first thing you want to do when you feel these vicious feelings of self comparison and shame and self sabotage about your content is to get off social media. Put down your phone, your iPad, close your computer, get off social media. It's like we say over in kinesiology and the physiology side, if you take the stressor away, the stress response will cease. Whatever that thing is that is causing you to compare yourself to the work of others is the thing that you need to eliminate in order to cease the cycle. A lot of people say that you should go out and, scroll on Pinterest, scroll on Instagram to see the kind of work that inspires you. But in reality, if there's one thing I learned from being a photographer and now a wellness influencer and working to create genuine work that is from me and from me only, is that before you even think of looking externally, you need to look internally and figure out how you inspire yourself. And that can sound really daunting at first because it requires work and it requires us to sit down with ourselves and ask ourselves, tough questions, really. But it starts at the most basic level. It starts with you asking yourself, what gets me up in the morning? Is it school? Okay, well, what makes me go to school? It's because I'm trying to build a career for myself. It's because I want to be successful in life. Is it your parents, your siblings, your friends, your partner? And why is that? Is it because you're working towards being a better partner, daughter, son, sister? Is it your work? Is it because you like to help people? Is it because you are working to improve your company and grow it into something? Ask yourself what gets you up in the morning. Ask yourself what your values are. Ask yourself how you want to contribute to the greater society and its improvement, and how your passion can do that for you and can help you do that. One other exercise that I have really enjoyed doing is noticing the things in your day. Get my Keurig going, froth my milk, and that first sip is just heaven. If you're a coffee lover, you know exactly what I mean. Like, just take a second and envision that first sip, like the warm smell, what it tastes like, what it feels like. That feeling is what you want to funnel into the work that you're creating. How can you take that feeling of that first sip and everything it is and create it into something meaningful? Now, I'm not saying go write a blog post about having that first sip. But what I'm trying to say is there's a reason why that first sip makes you feel a certain way, right? Because you love the taste, because you love coffee, because you know that you are treating yourself with that first cup of coffee in the morning because you're fueling yourself with, you know, caffeine is a very controversial topic, but I'm just going to say on here that it fuels you in some way. When you're feeling tired, when you're not feeling tired, it's just your way of treating yourself in the morning. How can you take that and produce content that will speak to people and motivate them to make morning coffee so that they can also experience that first sip feeling? Not quoting McDonald's on that or anything. The next thing you want to do is you want to ask yourself the kinds of things and the kinds of people that you are drawn to. And I just want to say that this is arguably one of the best parts of this process that you put yourself through as a creator, because so oftentimes the things and the people that you are drawn to are completely subconscious and you don't even realize why you're drawn to them until you ask yourself this question and really go through the process of figuring it out. Because your values and your passions and your ambitions reflect themselves through the people and the things that you associate yourself with and the things that you spend your time doing. So for me, in my personal experience, when I was working with a company, a mentoring company who we were trying to figure out a better marketing strategy for me that would grow my business. And the question I was asked was, what is my ideal clientele base and why? So I had to ask myself, okay, what is my why? And what are the kinds of people that I like to work with? What kinds of people am I drawn to through my work? And looking through past work and reflecting on past experiences, we quickly realized together that I am drawn to people who are beginners in the photo industry, specifically models and anyone and everybody who has never gone pictures before, couples, families, senior graduates, small business owners who are just starting their enterprise. I am drawn to that target of people. It's a very broad target of people. I don't really think that it has a specific name. I just call it the newbies to the photo industry. But I was I realized through reflecting on past experiences that that was people I was drawn to. So one example is that a very close friend of mine who is a professional model, we hosted a workshop in November when COVID was still not so bad here in Victoria, I promise. We hosted a workshop for models who were just trying to build their portfolios and were just getting into the industry and wanted work to showcase in their portfolio so that they could continue delivering content and getting noticed by brands, modeling agencies, etc., the people that they were trying to work for. And it was through doing that process and realizing that that was the kinds of people that I wanted to influence and to reach with my work that I was able to structure packages in order to attract that specific client, right? Because if you, like I said, are just delivering content aimlessly without a purpose and an intention, people are going to get confused at what the intention is behind your work and your purpose. Therefore, the chances of you attracting people with it are is much lower. And if you have past work that you are reflecting on in order to answer this question, and this doesn't have to be direct examples of work in the current field that you're in. So if you're a newbie photographer and you don't have a portfolio, this doesn't mean that you go back into your photography library, right? This means that you might go back into your camera roll and look at past pictures that you've taken, or maybe you go into a journal that you have and you look at the things that you write about, or you reflect on past experiences, whether it was a trip, whether it was a class, whether it was a social experience that inspired you in some way. Reflect on that and ask yourself, okay, why did that inspire me as much as it did? And how can I take the feelings that I got from that experience and turn them into something meaningful? If you're a content creator, same goes. You know, reflect on past things you've written, reflect on past things you've read, reflect on past podcasts you've listened to, and ask yourself why those things resonated with you so much and how you can take those things in order to deliver content that promotes wellness and gets people engaged with your content. Now, this process for wellness was a little bit easier because, like I said, I'm very passionate about self betterment and self improvement and leadership and inspiring people through that. So, going into it, I already knew the content that I wanted to make and the things I wanted to say. But very quickly, through the people I started following and the people that started following me and the kinds of people that I was talking to, I really narrowed down the target audience that I want to touch and reach with my work, very similarly to photography, are individuals who are just starting on their wellness journey and individuals who want to define what wellness is for them and individuals who are hungry for change and people who are willing to be vulnerable and challenge the status quo and have tough conversations. So you're going to find out things about yourself and the kinds of things that you want to convey through your work through this process. It isn't like you figure it out one day and then that's the ideal that you stick with through the rest of your journey. It is very much, you know, progress is nonlinear, as they say. You're going to fall out of love with some ideals, you're going to fall in love with some ideals, you're going to create posts that you're happy about, and you're going to create posts that you're kind of like, oh, this could be changed. I could have said this better, or you know what, maybe I don't really stand for this. The super cool thing about being a content creator is that you are documenting your own journey towards growth and self improvement. And in doing this reflection that I've just talked about reflecting on past experiences, on past work, in order to find your voice within all of that, you will find your purpose. You will find the reason why you are trying to dedicate your time to this. And if it's not clear right away off the bat, don't get discouraged because it might become clearer as you go. There's a reason why what you're doing inspires you so much, right? And it doesn't have to be a one worder or a one sentence or, you know, you will figure it out as you go through this journey. But this process is so key towards finding your voice and finding yourself through the work that you want to convey. I just tell it to everybody. Like, before you even consider making a Pinterest board about couples photos that inspire you, about recipes that inspire you, like, you need to go inside and ask yourself what gets you up in the morning and what drives you to live life to its fullest every single day. Now, to kind of build off from what I was talking about just there, about doing the process and reflecting internally, I want to emphasize and I want you to know that creating content is a process of constant learning and relearning and getting uncomfortable. You have to be willing to seek external resources, do readings, listen to podcasts, watch videos on whatever you're doing so that you can get to know this field for all it is and to strengthen your capabilities within the field in order to not only structure a marketing plan for yourself, but also to reflect on the kind of content that is needed out there for people to see in the world and the kind of content that speaks to people the most and how you can take that content and make it unique and deliver it to have it speak to more people. This also means enrolling in experiences. If you're a photographer, you might go to a photographer meetup or workshop. If you're a content creator, go to online seminars, watch Instagram lives with your favorite Instagram influencers, read about marketing, read about Instagram algorithms, and this is so key. If you have a business profile, use the insights button on your main page and look at, the activity of your followers, the demographic, what times are most active in the day, As much as it is so important to stay unique to yourself, and a lot of people tell you like, doesn't even matter what time you post and you shouldn't care how many likes you get, If you are doing this for the sake of getting your message out to the greater public and for the sake of inspiring change, you also have to be an intelligent business owner and marketer and have a strategy. And there's nothing wrong, I emphasize, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using your analytics to help you expand your mission and grow it into what you want it to be. It's like you have to be willing to diversify your palate if you want to try new and exotic foods and have something to bring to the table at your next gathering. Wow, I am patting myself on the back for that one because I just made it up and I am so proud. I hope someone's writing this down because I'm so proud of that. Now, after you've done the work and gone internally to find what inspires you and how you inspire yourself, then look externally, but do so with diligence. There's a saying in the photography community that is used, get inspired by, but don't copy it. And this is so tough to do because so many times we will subconsciously try to produce the same work without even knowing it. And when I go back to my old work in photography, I see this all the time. Like, I would see a cool image on Pinterest and somehow reflect. And if you put some of my pictures side by side, some of my first pictures side by side with Pinterest photos that I saved, you can kind of see that my old self was low-key trying to copy them. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And you're going to do that early in your work. And you're going to, like I said, feel the need to produce similar work in order to feel like you fit in with the crowd or that you're doing it right. But if you absolutely must, get inspired by it, but put your own twist on it so that A, you're not copywriting anybody else's work, but also it is staying true to you. Once you look externally at the people that inspire you and how they're managing their content, and what they're doing to attract people and viewers, you want to surround yourself with like-minded people, right? You want to surround yourself with people who are working towards a goal and are doing so for the greater good and have similar values and a similar mission to yours. So once you look at maybe like a key person that you look up to on a regular on social media, look at their follower base. Look at who follows them, look at who comments on their posts regularly, and look through those people's Instagrams or their Facebooks or their Twitters, whatever social media platform you're on. Because chances are that these people are very like minded and share similar goals as you and the person that you're getting inspired by here. And there's things that you could learn from them too. In addition to that, do not be afraid to ask questions ever. You know, the beauty of social media right now is that we have access to millions of people and millions of resources at the touch of a button and a quick type into the keyboard, right? You can DM anyone on Instagram. And obviously, this is daunting because, some people that you might follow might have 100,000 or more followers, and you don't want your message to get lost. But again, one strategy that helps is narrowing down to who follows them and maybe finding someone who follows them who shares similar content and has less followers to ensure and help the fact that your message won't get lost in their inbox. But also, don't be afraid to reach out to those bigger accounts because a lot of times, even if they themselves aren't doing it, their social media managers are doing it for them and they could see your message and potentially forward you to somebody or a resource that is going to help you, right? I actually started this podcast on Anchor, which is the current platform I'm using by Spotify, and it's an absolute dream, you guys. Like, I could go on about it forever. But I started on this platform because I messaged an influencer on Instagram that I've been following for a while who recently started her own podcast. And I was like, oh, this is for sure going to get lost in her inbox, because I'm just one of like her few, like thousands of followers. And she responded and she suggested it to me. So creds to Noam Rader. If any of you in the wellness industry know who she is, she's fabulous. My role model for a woman in the medical field, like she's wonderful. Go follow her. I will definitely tag her in the. But don't be afraid to message people and ask for help. Ask them what inspires them. Where do they go for inspiration? Like anything and everything, just ask them because there's a reason why you're drawn to their content, right? And there's a reason why their content resonates with you already from photography and from my wellness account. Like, I swear, most of the time I spend on social media, like whenever I go over my social media limit on my phone, it's not because I've been mindlessly scrolling, because I hate mindlessly scrolling. Most of the time it's because I am engaging in conversation with people through DMs or through private message. Like, it's fascinating how close you can get to people from such diverse parts of the world because you guys share the same mission and one of you was unafraid or maybe was afraid but did it anyway to just start a conversation. It's that easy, you guys. I seriously encourage it. You will meet incredible people. You'll even make some friends, most likely. I certainly have. And it would be wrong to solely go off of your own idea of what's a wise marketing plan. What's a wise way to curate content? What is a wise way to market your content? Like, you want to, like I said, diversify your palette and diversify your toolkit of strategies to grow your name and to make better content that is true to you. But as the saying goes, suggestion has only as much power as you give it. So take advice, but be diligent with it and be critical about it. Be smart about the kind of advice that you take. And that also comes with asking yourself whether the advice that somebody gave you is true to you and is true to the advice that you would give yourself as a content creator and as somebody who is trying to contribute to this greater mission. So if somebody tells you, have a uniform, like white aesthetic look to your Instagram and post more of a certain kind of content, you have to ask yourself, okay, is that going to reflect what I'm trying to do in my work? Or can I take that advice and structure it into my own way of doing it? Or should I just completely ditch it? Because it is so important that the advice that you take and the people that you seek it from is going to contribute to your growth and not your backtrack. Another piece of advice that I have here, and this is ultimately, I would say, the hardest part about being a content creator in this day and age, is that you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be yourself. I've emphasized that already a lot in our conversation here, but real people respond to real authenticity. The people that you want following you are people that value your content because they value you through your content, right? You want to show the good and not so good. There's so much of the good only shown on Instagram, like the happy times with our friends and with our families and the coffee runs and the sushi. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But how many people do you know post their progress? You want to be real and you want to speak about growth and you want to speak about how you grew and the experiences that you've been through, how those helped you grow in yourself and as a content creator, for people to engage with you the best. You want to be as real as possible. And it's hard. It's tough to be vulnerable. It's tough to show those not so good parts of ourselves, arguably, and those tough periods. But, law of attraction, 100%, you reap what you sow. What you put into the world, you attract. And if you put that kind of content into the world that showcases you and all your successes, but also the tough times that got you towards those successes, you're going to attract people who, A, are either working towards the same thing as you are, who are like minded, who value people who are vulnerable, and they value the struggle and the beauty that comes from getting through the storm. And you're going to create a space for yourself that you look forward to logging into and posting content and engaging with people on, because Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and social media in general can become such a toxic place so quickly if you just follow people for the sake of following them and getting a follow back. And their content might not even resonate with you and it might be totally against you, but you're just doing it for the follow, right? Be real. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. And in tandem with that piece of advice, I also want to say that you're going to make mistakes. It is humanly impossible to not make mistakes. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't be scared, because you have absolutely every right to be scared before posting a vulnerable story or a personal opinion on something. You're totally afraid to be scared because there's a lot of things at stake here, but that can't stop you from doing it. Because I promise you that regardless of whether you make a mistake, regardless of whether you look back on that post one day and you're like, oh, this could have been so much better, regardless if you even get called out on social media about it, the person that you're going to come out of that experience being is going to be that much more knowledgeable and is going to be able to contribute to society that much better and that much intellectually, because you will have learned from the opinions of others and from people who might have been more educated than you around a certain topic, but depending on whatever that was. Maybe you posted an opinion about something and someone came and argued with you that it might not have been like a good position to come from or a good argument. You have to be willing to make mistakes. And it's okay, because people see that and people value that. I know that cancel culture is so scary right now with all of the things going on around the world and all the things that happened in 2020 and continue to happen in 2021 and happened long before that. We won't get into that. But it is so scary to fathom making a mistake and being called out for it in the way that people have been responding to people's mistakes recently and have been for a long time on social media, because it is way easier, right, to be angry and instill fear through a screen because nobody's seeing who's on the other side. But take that criticism with diligence, the same that you would advice from somebody else about how you should structure your account and your content to reach people. Because a lot of people will lash out at you for the sake of being right and for the sake of fulfilling their ego. It's when you take the time to educate yourself and to sit with their words and their advice, when then you can make a decision as to whether that advice is going to help you grow and help your content ultimately. Recently I was listening to a podcast by Jay Shetty and Will Smith. Absolutely brilliant podcast, by the way. I recommend it to anybody. I will also link it in the podcast description below. But Jay Shetty asked Will Smith if he could make one law in the world, what would it be? And Will Smith said, nobody would be allowed, if I'm saying this correctly, I believe it was, nobody should be allowed to give an opinion about what somebody said before repeating what that person said to them first. What he's trying to say is that until you've understood what somebody's trying to tell you, you should not even think to make a comment or a response, right? Because we are so quick to respond sometimes because we've already formulated an opinion and because we want to protect ourselves, that we may have totally misunderstood what that person was trying to say. So if you make a mistake and somebody comes at you for it or tries to correct you, take it with dignity yourself for and be diligent, right? Because you went for it. You posted that thing, you said that long caption, you told your story. And there's nothing wrong with being wrong sometimes. It's when you use that correction to be better next time, or you use that critique to evaluate whether or not it is true to you and is going to help you grow, that you've already won. Now, the last thing I want to say about this topic and finding your process as a content creator and creating yourself in your truest form as a creator through social media is that you need to take breaks from the social media at least once in a while. I try to take social media breaks at least once or twice a week to be more productive, but also to get away from the noise a little bit and to reflect on me and the content that I've recently put out and ask myself what's going right, what isn't going so well. Do I still hear my own voice in the words that I am posting on social media? Because, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, it is so easy to subconsciously fall into the train of self-comparison when you are spending so much time on social media. It is so easy to fall down that loophole that you want to make sure that you are constantly coming back to yourself and taking time away from the noise and the content to make sure that you are producing unique content still, but also to continue asking yourself what kinds of things that you might have seen that week on Instagram, or what kinds of things that you're doing in your own life are inspiring you, and how you can take those things to create even more new content. In addition to learning and relearning and being wrong as a content creator and making mistakes and being innovative and getting it wrong 1,000 times, it is such a cool process because you are constantly learning about yourself. And like I said, your mission and the things that you want to teach people about and the kinds of things that you want to bring to the world in order to make it a better place. So take regular breaks from it. And the other thing I want to say is that if ever the thing that you're doing, whether it's photography like me, whether it's wellness influencing, whether it is life coaching, wellness coaching, posting about fitness, like whatever the thing is that you are doing and that you're committed to, if ever there comes a time where that thing suddenly seems out of reach or doesn't inspire you, or you're kind of disillusioned by it, don't take that ever as you're not meant to do this thing. It might just mean that you need to take some time away from the thing to come back to yourself, just like you would a social media break. You need to come back to yourself for a second and rediscover your purpose, redefine it, maybe, redefine your approach, and pinpoint what it is that is making you feel disillusioned. Because maybe you're just bored, right? Maybe you've been doing it the same way for a while and you need to be more innovative and intelligent about your approach and the kinds of things that you want to deliver. We grow and learn every single day. And you can't expect your work to always look the same, right? Because A, that doesn't attract people if you're not being constantly innovative and delivering new content, but you need your current self to reflect through your current work, not your past self to reflect through your current work. So take breaks, come back home, and try again. It's scary, it's tough, but it's always worth it. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. This was an absolute joy to record, and I am so happy that I got to talk about this topic. I hope it resonated with you and gave you some tips on how to be your truest self as a content creator and how to create content that is true to you. If you have any questions or any topics that you would like me to talk about on the podcast, don't hesitate to send me a DM or an email. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Have a great rest of your day.